Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring something that feels, well, incredibly relevant and honestly quite heavy in today's world. We've all seen it happen lately, these really intense societal reactions when someone makes a mistake. We've sadly seen people even take their own lives after being just socially destroyed for maybe one single error. It's happened to famous people, to young students. It's just heartbreaking.
It really is. And what's striking, maybe even troubling, is how merciless we can become towards others' failures. Even though, we all make mistakes, we're all fallible. And it's not just online, is it? It happens in our communities, workplaces too. There's this feeling sometimes like, well, if it's not me making the mistake, then it's okay to be harsh, and people get pushed away so cruelly.
Exactly. It really makes you wonder, where does that come from? And is there maybe another way to think about judgment, about mercy? So our mission in this deep dive is to explore that very question, looking at a perhaps surprising ancient source, Ezekiel chapter 20. We want to see what this text might reveal about real justice, about patience, and maybe how we should respond. Okay, let's get into it. #1, the world's harsh ledger versus God's just standard.
So, let's start with where we are now. Our culture can be incredibly quick to, cancel someone, condemn them, as this ancient text sort of highlights by contrast. One mistake, and it feels like people are just erased, written off. And we see it. That often leads to real despair for the person involved.
It's like a really harsh accounting system, isn't it? One wrong entry and the whole ledger is ruined, irrevocably. But then, the source we're looking at, Ezekiel, introduces something completely different, a different standard. It makes this bold claim, basically, that the fairest standard, the most just standard, is found in the Bible. And it says very clearly God's standard is perfectly just. No ambiguity there.
Right. And what's really striking about that standard, the perfectly just one, is that, according to the text, every single one of us falls short. It's not like, those people failed. No, the text is clear. By this divine measure, we all deserve, death.
That really sets up a stark contrast, doesn't it, between the world sort of picking people off one by one for mistakes and this divine standard saying, hang on, we're all in the same boat here. We all fall short.
Exactly. It kind of forces you to look at yourself first before judging others so harshly.
Okay, so if that's the big picture, that we all fall short by this perfect standard, how does this ancient text illustrate it? Let's look closer at Ezekiel 20, maybe verses 10 to 21. It starts by setting the scene, right? Recounting Israel's story, their journey in the wilderness right after God led them out of Egypt.
Yes, and almost immediately you see this pattern start. God gives them clear instructions. He lays out statutes and rules. And the text says, if a person does them, he shall live. So these are life-giving commands, and part of that was the Sabbaths, which were given as a specific sign between God and them, like a weekly reminder of who they were, who he was.
A sign of the relationship.
Exactly, a covenant marker. So breaking it wasn't just like forgetting a rule, it was rejecting that whole relationship, that identity.
Okay, so they've just been rescued, they have clear commands for life, a sign of who they are, and then what? I mean, you kind of anticipate it, knowing human nature. And text confirms it. The first rebellion happens almost right away. It says, they broke his commands, profaned his Sabbaths, and deserved judgment. It's pretty blunt.
Very blunt. It quotes God saying, they rebelled against me in the wilderness. They did not walk in my statutes, but rejected my rules. And my Sabbaths they greatly profaned. Just outright rejection.
Wow. Not exactly grateful.
Not at all. And the really amazing, or maybe depressing thing, is that the pattern just kept going. God even warned the next generation, their kids. He told them explicitly, don't follow your father's ways, don't keep their rules, don't defile yourselves with their idols.
You'd think they'd listen after seeing what happened.
You would, but the text says, the children rebelled against me. They did not walk in my statutes and were not careful to obey my rules. They profaned my Sabbaths. So it wasn't just a slip-up. It was like a generational choice to disobey. Again and again.
And the text is pretty chilling about the consequences they deserved, right? In both cases, it says God considered just, pouring out his wrath, making a full end of them in the wilderness.
Yeah, you really feel the weight of that. They deserved it, according to this perfectly just standard they kept violating.
But then, right when you expect that judgment to fall, the story takes this incredible turn.
Exactly. This is where it gets really surprising. Despite this repeated, deliberate rebellion, the text keeps saying, God withheld my hand. He didn't act on the judgment they deserved. It's this central paradox, isn't it? Justice demands one thing, but something else happens.
The mercy shown here is just kind of hard to grasp, isn't it? That key verse, Ezekiel 20.16, just lays it out. Nevertheless, my eyes spared them, and I did not destroy them or make a full end of them in the wilderness. That word, nevertheless, it carries so much weight.
It really does. And the text is very specific about why God spared them. This is crucial.
Yeah.
It wasn't because they suddenly got their act together or earned it. No, it says explicitly it was because he is merciful.
Just his character.
His character.
Yeah.
And interestingly, it adds, he acted for the sake of his name, that it should not be profaned in the sight of the nations.
Mm-hmm.
So his reputation was on the line. Mm-hmm. What would the surrounding nations think if he destroyed the very people he just rescued?
So it's bigger than just them. It's about who God is and how he's known.
Precisely. Which maybe makes you think, how does our mercy, or lack of it, reflect on whatever group or belief we represent?
That's a good point. And this patience from God, it wasn't like saying, oh, it's fine, just keep sinning.
No, definitely not. The text makes that clear too. His patience wasn't permission. It was an invitation. An invitation, to return, to come back. It was keeping the door open, not endorsing their behavior.
Okay, so he spared them from total destruction out of mercy. But that doesn't mean there were no consequences, right?
Absolutely not. The mercy didn't erase all consequences. The narrative is clear on that. Later in the chapter, it mentions God swore he would eventually scatter them among the nations and disperse them through the countries because they kept disobeying. So long-term consequences were still very real.
And then there are those, let's say, challenging verses later on, around 25 and 26.
Yes. Those are definitely passages that make you stop and think, where God says something like, "Moreover, I gave them statutes that were not good and rules by which they could not have life."
Yeah, that sounds jarring, God giving bad statutes.
It is jarring at first read, and commentators wrestle with it. But often the understanding isn't that God created evil laws, but rather in judgment, he gave them over to the consequences of their own choices. Their choices were leading them down a path of, say, child sacrifice following the nations. And God, in a sense, allowed them to fully experience the emptiness and horror of that path, giving them up to statutes that were not good, in the sense that these were the destructive ways they had chosen, which couldn't lead to life.
So it's like letting them reap what they sowed to show them the dead end?
Kind of. The text says he did it that I might devastate them, and ultimately that they might know that I am the Lord. It's presented as a severe, almost shocking way to bring them back to reality, to see the futility of their rebellion and recognize his ultimate authority. It's definitely a complex part of the narrative showing the depth of the consequences.
Okay, so even with the mercy, there's still this profound seriousness about their actions and God's response.
Right. And when you pull back and look at the whole picture, you see this fundamental difference. Our culture can be so quick to condemn and erase. But God, in this account, is different. He sees the sin with perfect clarity. He's not ignoring it yet. He demonstrates this incredible patient mercy alongside the consequences.
Which really brings it back to us today. How do we respond to this?
Exactly. This ancient story has some direct questions for you listening right now. Like, do you tend to take God's mercy for granted? Just assume it's there? Or does thinking about it actually lead you towards maybe gratitude, towards wanting to live differently?
And then thinking about others, it forces the question, who in your life right now could use some grace instead of judgment? Maybe it's someone at work who messed up, or a friend who said something hurtful, or even, someone in the public eye you're quick to judge online.
Yeah. So the challenge from this deep dive really is for you today. Choose to reflect that same kind of mercy, God's mercy, in your own relationships. It's not easy, but it's practical. It's about how we interact day to day.
And underlying all of this is that foundational hope, isn't it? The core message seems to be, God's mercy is greater than our failures.
Yes. The text suggests he doesn't actually delight in destroying people. His desire, ultimately, is to preserve us for his own glory. That's a powerful counter-narrative to the one we often see played out. #outro.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we've really looked at a powerful tension, haven't we? This clash between the world's often harsh, unforgiving judgment and this picture from Ezekiel 20 of a divine standard, one that demands justice, yes, but also offers this deep, patient, almost unbelievable mercy.
It really does. It kind of challenges our own gut reactions, doesn't it? Our impulse maybe to condemn quickly. It asks us to think about our own capacity for grace, for patience.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast, and it maybe encourages us to look past that first mistake, that initial reaction, and consider something deeper. What does grace look like? What does forgiveness actually mean for ourselves and how we treat others?
And maybe the final thought to leave you with, something really drawn from the heart of this ancient text, is this. Without that divine compassion, that mercy we talked about, well, our lives would be utterly hopeless. That's quite a statement, something profound to reflect on maybe long after this deep dive ends. How might that truth reshape how you see things?